We're making our way through 2 Kings. We're up to chapter 18, and we're going to cover King Hezekiah. Excellent study. You'll see in a few clicks that King Hezekiah, there's more written about him than any other king except for David. So there's a lot of study that can be done there. We've used this thing for many, many months now. The nation of Israel, the top half, has since been written off to Assyria. And we're going to see one more epitaph, but for the rest of the study, we'll be concentrating on the tribe of Judah, the southern half. And last time we were together, Ahaz, a bad king, died. Hezekiah became the king, and you're going to see that there's a great deal of interaction between the scriptures that are in 2 Kings with the scriptures that are in Isaiah. When we were together last time, I talked about some Bible study tips. And I said, this was really cool because I did a study on Ahaz, right? And you can see what came out. So then, of course, something works, you use it again. I did a study on Hezekiah, and what came back was not AI stuff. It was just your typical Google search. So I discovered that you have to type AI mode to do that sort of a thing. Again, I'm sharing these things so that you can do your own Bible study things. And when you do AI mode, you get the stuff that are the meat of what we're going to study and more details for you to do your own studies. We're going to cover all those bullets once we get into the thing. Now, I'm also going to give you a PC tip. There's a free app out there called Clavier Plus. And what you can do is use some of these control keys to type things automatically. So I don't know how often you type your email address into something or some of your favorite phrases, but from now on, all I have to do is type Control-Shift-C, and I get Concordance, ASV, AI mode, and I just type the word or the thing that I want to search. It's very cool. Enjoy. So, King Hezekiah, we're going to study his religious reforms. We're going to study his trust in God. In fact, we're going to cover some of the superlatives added to the kings, like the wisest king, the richest king, the most evil king. We're going to look at the Assyrian crisis. And God solved that crisis ultimately. He killed 185,000 soldiers in one night. We're going to see that after all of this is done, Isaiah walks into the courtroom and says, put your house in order, you're going to die. Well, once again, Hezekiah's trust, coupled with his prayers, extended his life for 15 years. Well, in those 15 years, some ambassadors came from Babylon, and he thought, well, they're just some backwater country, and he just starts showing off the treasury, sort of like the President of the United States walking somebody through the National Archives in Fort Knox. And so Isaiah says, so what did you show those guys? He said, I showed them National Archives at Fort Knox. And Isaiah says, whatever you showed them, it's going to be gone. Kingly superlatives. This is great if you're playing Bible trivia. The wisest, the richest, the greatest builder, and the most peaceful reign, all are attributed to Solomon. Man after God's own heart, the most successful military leader, and the most repentant king, King David. Most faithful, the one who trusted the Lord the most, we're going to actually cover that verse, is Hezekiah. Most religious reforms, Hezekiah. Most zealous for the law, Hosea. And then the two youngest kings, we studied Joash. He was the one whose aunt and uncle hid him until he was 7 years old. And later on in our studies, guaranteed not today, we'll be talking about Josiah. The most evil king on the north was Ahab. The most evil king on the south was Manasseh. Now, Manasseh follows Hezekiah. And there are some things happening along the course of time that I don't understand, but they happen. We will study that Hezekiah has been given 15 more years. As a sign, the Lord let the sun go back 10 degrees. So 3 years into the 15, Manasseh is born. So Manasseh gets to live underneath this most trusting king, the one who did the most reforms for 12 years. And then Manasseh becomes the most evil king of the south. So we've looked at these things and we said, here's a history marker, but I'm highlighting the son of Ahaz because I'm going to also point out the daughter of the wife of Ahaz, the mother of Hezekiah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abi, the daughter of Hezekiah. And Second Chronicles tells us that this Zechariah, there are lots of Zechariahs in the Bible, this Zechariah was a prophet. Now, for the sake of the illustration, let's make this assumption that Abi was raised a godly woman, daughter of a prophet. Let's also recognize that back then, even in cultures of this day, you don't choose your spouse. People choose your spouse for you. And I don't know what Ahaz had in mind. It might have been a political thing. It might have been a marriage of convenience. We don't know. But here's Ahaz sacrificing his kids. And here's Abi, godly woman. This is like the ultimate dysfunctional family. And so there are several lessons to be learned from a dysfunctional family. The first one comes from 1 Peter. Likewise, wives, be subject to your own husband, so that even if some do not obey the word, they may be won without a word by the conduct of their wives, when they see your respectful and pure conduct. I've heard some crazy things. I'm sure somebody made these things. You don't take your lipstick and write on the mirror, repent, the end is near. You don't take a note and stick it inside your husband's lunch box and say, Jesus loves you, please repent. You live your godly life, and it will show. It will show for your husband. It'll show for your kids. So now, here's Hezekiah, product of a dysfunctional family. Does that give him an excuse to misbehave like his dad did? No. I'd like to think that the influence of his mother got this guy to grow up and live a godly life. So what's the answer in that situation? Continual prayer and daily Bible study. So Hezekiah reigns in Judah. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that David, his father, had done. Keep in mind, there's no word in this language that says grandfather. His ancestor had done. He removed the high places and broke the pillars and cut down the Asherah. Now, the high places are different than the Asherah and the Baal. And this is going to be important when we talk about the message that Sennacherib sends to Hezekiah's people. The high places, people were offering sacrifices to Yahweh, but they weren't bringing them to the temple like they were supposed to. They had a religion of convenience. So he took care of the paganism, and he took care of the convenient religiosity. And he broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made. For until those days, the people of Israel had made offerings to it. It was called Nehushtan, which means brass or brass. Now, that occurs in Numbers. What happened were the people were dying. They were being bitten by snakes. God tells Moses to make a brass serpent, and those that look at on the brass serpent will live. Fast forward to John chapter 3, and Jesus said, even as the serpent was lifted up, so must I be lifted up. Well, I expect in Numbers, if people just looked at that brass snake and they said, well, there's a brass snake, nothing's going to happen. But if they look at that brass snake in faith, they get saved from the fiery serpents. And so, once again, here's a situation where they're not over on the pagan world, but they're just one notch off of worshiping the true Yahweh. So if you're one notch off, you can't do this on a highway, but let's say you do it out on the sea. If you're one notch off on your direction, what's going to happen over time? you'll be a great deal away from the true direction. Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel, so that there was none like him among all the kings of Judah after him, nor among those that were before him. What we're going to see, that even though he had this trust, he had a couple of failures. The first one I mentioned, where he showed off his gold. And we're going to see the second one here, where Sennacherib is going to charge him some taxes. And instead of rebelling and going to the Lord, he paid his taxes. We're going to see that. For he held fast to the Lord. He did not depart from following him, but kept the commandments that the Lord commanded Moses. And the Lord was with him. Wherever he went out, he prospered. He rebelled against the king of Assyria and would not serve him. He struck down the Philistines as far as Gaza and its territory, from watchtower to fortified city. So this is what's happening. Up to the north and towards the east, starting to come down in pressure. So he's getting pressure there. He's getting pressure from the west, the Philistines. He's rebelling these guys, but he's beating these guys. In the 4th year, Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria. This is another add-on to the epitaph of Israel. And at the end of 3 years of siege, he took it. The king of Assyria carried the Israelites away to Assyria and put them in Hala and on the Hebar and the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. Why did he do that? Because they did not obey the voice of the Lord. They transgressed the covenant, even all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded. They neither listened nor obeyed. Now, those of you that are meeting with us on Wednesday nights, we finished the week before last the book of Amos. And Amos said, there's coming a famine, not a famine of bread or food, not a thirst famine, but a famine for... And it caught the north. And after a while, after several generations, it's going to catch the south. The north fell because they did not obey. They would not listen to all the prophets that we've been studying. So Sennacherib, we're now a couple generations later from that first king, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the fortified cities of Judah and took them. Didn't take Jerusalem yet. And Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to the king of Assyria at Lachish, saying, I have done wrong. Withdraw from me. Whatever you impose on me, I will bear. And the king of Assyria required of Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. $70 million. Notice there's no prayer in that verse. Just like in the book of Joshua, the Jebusites came up. And they said, look, our sandals are worn out, our clothing is torn, our bread is moldy. Let's make a league. And Joshua, without conferring with the Lord, made a league, and the Jebusites were a thorn in their side from that point forward. Hezekiah gave them all the silver that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasuries of the king's house. But then on top of that, he also stripped the gold off the doors of the temple and off the doorposts, and he gave it all to the king of Assyria. Well, just like blackmail, there's no such thing as single payment, and it's all over. And the king of Assyria sent the Tartan, the Rabsaris, and the Rabshakeh with a great army from Lachish to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. So he sent the military leaders, the administrative people. You might as well say he's sending General Kane and Marco Rubio. And he's also sending a spokesperson, a propagandist, a diplomat. They're going to exercise psychological warfare here. And when they called for the king, there came out to them the king's side, their administrator, their lawyer, and their recorder, the historian. They want to get it just right. Just like if you go to a court of law, every single word is recorded. But no military leader. So what's the propagandist going to say? First of all, he's shouting out in the Hebrew language because he's not just talking to those guys that came out to meet him. He's projecting his voice so that all of Jerusalem gets to hear. Now, keep in mind, The north had already fallen. We read that. Keep in mind, the north had already been dispersed to all these other regions as far away as the Medes. And what this propagandist is saying is, he's saying this: yeah, you can trust in your God, but when he fails, you're going to be forced one of two things. If you don't surrender, you're going to drink your own urine and eat your own dung. But if you surrender, we're going to ship you off to some place where you can have vineyards and you can have your farms. And so the Jewish side says, oh, please talk to us in our own language. They want to have a little bit of damage control. Verse 20. Do you think that mere words are strategy and power for war? And whom do you now trust that you have rebelled against me? We just read verse 5. There's the answer. And Sennacherib knew that Hezekiah trusted the Lord. We'll see that in a few verses. Behold, you are trusting now in Egypt, the broken reed of a staff. Now, was there in fact a league with Egypt? The Bible doesn't say for sure. We know that in Isaiah chapters 30 and 31, Isaiah is warning them against creating an alliance with Egypt. And if you look at the real estate, it sort of makes sense, because here would be Egypt allied with Israel against Assyria. But let's say it's a rumor. Let's say this propagandist made it up. We're going to find out that that same rumor is going to come back and get Sennacherib. If you say to me, we trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and altars Hezekiah has removed? Now, this is why I made an important point about separating Asherah from the high places. This propagandist is going right after their religion, and he's saying, worshiping over on 5th Street worked for you, and now we want you on Main Street. And what do you think about that? He's attacking the purity of their religion. If you say to me, we trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and altars Hezekiah has removed? Your God has been failed, because Hezekiah got rid of him for you. Come now, make a wager. ESV says wager, NIV and NASB says bargain. DJT, that's Donald J. Trump, he says, let's make a deal. Let's make a deal with my master, the king of Assyria. I will give you 2,000 horses if you've got cavalry guys that can get on that horse. Now then, can you repulse a single captain among the least of my master's servants? He's saying, my least soldier is greater than your champion. Moreover, is it without the Lord that I have come up against this place to destroy it? What now he's saying is, God's on his side. The Lord said to me, go up against this land and destroy it. Now keep in mind, a couple decades later, Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar was sent by the Lord. Jeremiah refers to Nebuchadnezzar as God's servant. But Sennacherib was not his servant. This is the propagandist playing psychological warfare. He said, your God is not only against you, he's for me. Then the Jewish side speaks up. Please speak to your servants in Aramaic, for we understand it. Do not speak to us in the language of Judah within the hearing of the people who are on the wall. But Rabshakeh said, has my master sent me to speak these words to you and to your master and to you, and not to the men sitting on the wall? They are doomed with you to eat their own dung and to drink their own urine. Then Rabshakeh stood and called out in a loud voice in the language of Judah, hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. Do not let your king deceive you, for he will not be able to deliver you out of my hand. Hezekiah was not able to deliver him, but God is. Do not let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, the Lord will surely deliver us, and this city will not be given into the hand of Assyria. Do not listen to Hezekiah. Make your peace with me and come out to me, and then each one of you will eat of your own vine and of your own fig tree, and each one of you will drink the water of his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land. Now keep in mind, They were told, you never sell your land. You never leave your land. And Sennacherib is broadcasting the punch. He's saying, I'm going to defeat you and I'm going to haul your people all away. And do not listen to Hezekiah when he misleads you by saying the Lord will deliver us. Has any of the gods of the nations ever delivered his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? So far, they've been undefeated. Where are the gods of the different regions where he already hauled people off to, and he hauled some of those people back? And here are the places that he had conquered. He was into Syria. He was into Iraq. He was down into Mesopotamia, and which could possibly be as far as Persia and Iraq once again. And so there you see a map of the Assyrian Empire. And you see in the brown in the little bottom there, little Judah that has yet to be conquered. And what Sennacherib is saying is, the gods of all these people failed to me. Your God's going to fail too. But the people were silent and answered him not a word, for the king's command was, do not answer him. That's great advice. Sometimes if somebody is ranting and raving, the best thing to do is just not say anything, because you're basically fueling the fire. Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, and Shebna the secretary, and Joel the son of Asaph the recorder, came to Hezekiah with their clothes torn and told him the words of Rabshakeh. Well, my guess is he's already heard those words because the propagandists were shouting. And as soon as King Hezekiah heard it, he tore his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth and went into the house of the Lord. That takes us to chapter 19. So what have we studied so far? Hezekiah is king over Jerusalem. He makes some reforms. He's cleaning things up. They're prosperous because he's got about $70 million worth of stuff. And then the devil shows up. And the devil tempts him in every way and shape possible, which brings us to chapter 19. Hezekiah is surrounded. But just like Elisha at Doran, the chariots of fire surrounded the Syrian army. Hezekiah sent Eliakim, who was over the household, and the others to the prophet Isaiah. And he said to him, this day is a day of distress, of rebuke, of disgrace. Children have come to the point of birth, and there is no strength to bring them forth. It may be that the Lord our God heard all the words of Rabshakeh, whom his master, the king of Assyria, has sent to mock the living God. Therefore, lift up your prayer for the remnant that is left. And when the servants of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah, Isaiah told them, say to your master, thus saith the Lord. Do not be afraid. Fear not. That's in the Bible hundreds of times. Fear not because of the words you have heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have reviled me. Behold, I will put a spirit in him so that he will hear a rumor. He'll return to his land and he'll fall by a sword of his own land. Remember I said to you that the propagandist was sharing this rumor that the Egyptians were going to be in alliance with Judah? Well, what they're going to hear is a rumor. Never said that the Egyptians were there. He hears a rumor that the Egyptians are coming. Based on that rumor, he's going to flee back to Assyria and he'll be killed. So we're going to see the rumor in verses 8 and 9, the return in 28 and 29, and the fall in 36 and 37. So here's the lay of the land. Hezekiah is in Jerusalem. You can see that. King Sennacherib is in Lachish. You can see that on the bottom left. He is sending his envoys to and from Jerusalem to shout. And what happens is the rumor comes that the Egyptians are coming along the Mediterranean Sea. You see Ashdod there. And so what does Sennacherib do? He goes up and he tries to meet this rumored force. The Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria fighting against Libnah, for he had heard that the king had left Lachish. Now the king heard concerning Tirkahah, king of Cush, behold, he has set out to fight against you. So now they're going to repeat this propaganda one more time. But I want you to notice that Sennacherib is recognizing here that Hezekiah does, in fact, trust in God. That's the red exclamation point. Behold, you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands, devoting them to destruction. Shall you be delivered? Have the gods of the nations delivered them? The nations that my father destroyed? And again, a list of the nations. Where is the king of Hamath? Where are all these kings? So what Sennacherib did, he had written all this stuff out so that the messengers could take it back up to Jerusalem. Hezekiah receives that letter and he goes into the house of the Lord. He lays it down and he says, God, this is for you. And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord, And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord, and he said, O Lord, the God of Israel, enthroned above the cherubim, you are the God, you alone of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made the heavens and the earth. Incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see, and hear the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to mock the living God. Sounds almost like David in defiance to Goliath, because Goliath was mocking the living God. Truly, O Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste the nations and their lands, and they have cast their gods into the fire, for they were not gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they were destroyed. So now, O Lord our God, save us, please, save us from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you, O Lord, are God alone. Notice the reason he's giving him. No, don't save him because I don't want to die, but save him that the kingdoms would know that Yahweh is the one and true living God. Then Isaiah the son of Amos sent to Hezekiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, your prayer to me about Sennacherib, king of Assyria, I have heard, and this is the word that the Lord has spoken concerning him. You've scorned my city, you mocked me, you reviled me. Yeah, you've had some success, but I know you're sitting down and you're going out, and we're coming in, and you're raging against me. A recitation of Psalm 139. Because you have raged against me and your complacency has come into my ears, I will put my hook in your nose. That was the way the Assyrians took people prisoners. They put a fish hook in the nose and pulled them to wherever they wanted to go. And God is saying, I'm going to put my fish hook in Sennacherib's nose, and I'm going to pull him back to his hometown. And this shall be the sign for you. This year you will eat what grows of itself, and in the second year what springs of the same. In other words, they're going to be, even though there was a siege going on, they're going to be given plenty of food beyond reason. Then in the third year, they're going to be able to sow and reap and plant. And the surviving remnant of the house of Judah shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go a remnant, and out of Mount Zion a band of survivors. The zeal of the Lord will do this. And regarding the Assyrians, thus saith the Lord again, he shall not come into the city, or even shoot an arrow here, or come before it with a shield, or cast up a siege ramp against it. By the way that he came, that way he's going back, and he shall not come into the city, declares the Lord. For I will defend the city to save it, for my own sake and for the sake of my servant David. And that night the angel of the Lord went out and struck down 185,000 in the camp of the Assyrians. In the Old Testament, when you see that phrase, the angel of the Lord, it could be a theophany. Did Jesus wipe those 185,000 out? Did he send an angel? We don't know. And when the people arose early in the morning, behold, these were all dead bodies. Then Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went home and lived at Nineveh. And as he was worshiping in the house of Nisroch his god, his sons struck him down with the sword and escaped into the land of Ararat. They went up into Turkey. And another one of his sons reigned in his place.